Ni hao, everyone. There have been dishonest and unfounded claims that I have an undisclosed relationship with the great and powerful company of the people, G-Wolves. These are scandalous, false accusations. So I'm recording. What flag? Ooh. Well, this is awkward. Memes aside, I do want to let you know that I'm a mod on the G-Wolves Discord server, and for managing that garbage truck on fire, they were kind enough to let me get a first look of the HSK Plus before it comes out later this year. Obviously this doesn't influence my thoughts or opinions in this video in any way, but I did want to share it for full transparency before we kick off. G-Wolves released the original HSK back in 2021, but the lack of side buttons and the cold made it a miss for a lot of people. G-Wolves apparently took this personally, like 96 Jordan, and have been silently working on perfecting the fingertip mouse. The result of this is the HSK Plus. It keeps the idea and the shape that fingertip players wanted, but removes the cord and adds 2 side buttons. When I first got it in hand, I realised this isn't just a wireless HSK, it is the final form of the HSK, with it being longer, thinner and a lower hump. It's ditched the honeycomb and instead uses a solid top shell and base shell, making it look a lot cleaner and modern without adding excessive weight. In hand it felt like something this light shouldn't be this sturdy, and I can't get any creak or flex out of it no matter how hard I press from any direction. They've even managed to improve the coating, with it feeling more tactile, grippy and premium. And this tiny beast isn't just a looker on the surface, it is also packing, and it's full of features that you'd expect from any flagship mouse in 2022. We're looking at a Pixart 3370 sensor, KLGM 8.0 main switches, a TTC gold encoder scroll wheel, zippy micro switch side buttons, and it uses a 180 mAh battery, which has lasted me all week of testing without giving out whatsoever. G-Wolves also said that they're targeting a June release for $110 on Amazon, but honestly, I will believe this when I see it. I'm mostly just shocked that they've managed to cram all those features into a mouse that's smaller than my YouTube subscriber count. I mentioned this was a new shape, so I wanted to throw up some of the measurements on the screen so you can compare it to the old HSK and get an idea of where G-Wolves have made the changes. Here's how it stacks up against a limited number of other small mice that are typically gripped in a fingertip style by at least some of their users. Now, being a small mouse is fine, but if you're not comfortable, what's the point? Fortunately, G-Wolves have made the HSK Plus a lot easier to hold over longer periods. I found myself using a resting or relaxed fingertip grip in a shape that was very similar to how I used to grip the Xtrfy MZ1. The difference being that here, with no rear hump, I was able to use a much greater range of finger-led micro adjustments, making my flick corrections all the more rapid and accurate. Getting the HSK wireless and jamming it full of features was fine, but the weight of this mouse was absolutely going to make or break it with it being so small. On the original HSK, G-Wolves got it down to about 37.5 grams, but that was with a honeycomb shell, a wire, so no battery, and no side buttons. Shockingly, G-Wolves appear to have conjured some dark Huli Jing magic and have managed to deliver a wireless solid shaped mouse with side buttons for 38.8 grams. That is over 6 grams lighter than the next lightest wireless mouse on the market, and that was forged out of magnesium by Lord Ashcon himself, patron saint of Finalmouse. What this translates to is a truly weightless, no compromise experience for fingertip players, and yes, this is almost certainly going to be an exclusively fingertip mouse. I have 20 by 10 centimeter hands, and yes, I guess I could aggro claw this if I really curled my hand up. But I think the same way the Logitech G303 was built exclusively for claw, the G-Wolves HSK has been built from the ground up to be fingered. Moving on. Surprisingly, there's already a beta software available where I was able to change debounce, DPI, lift-off distance and pull rate, as well as assign macros and keybinds to buttons that aren't even on the mouse. Efficient. The skates of the typical G-Wolves are fair, they're nothing really to write home about, but they are 100% PTFE and are absolutely usable. Comparing the main clicks on this to the HSK Plus, they are a little lighter to actuate and are more subtle, but no less tactile or satisfying. The Alps encoder on the scroll wheel is as good as you'd expect from it, with firm, defined steps and an easy to actuate switch. But what about those side buttons? Are they actually viable on a mouse this small? Well, yes, but no. Firstly, the implementation of the buttons is spot on. They avoid micro dots and use zippy micro switches for a more conventional click feel and no pre-travel. Unfortunately, they have been positioned heavily towards the front of the mouse, especially when you compare this to the front of other popular mice. The knock-on effect of this was for me to use both buttons comfortably. I really had to shift my grip forward more comfortably than I typically would, and this limited the amount of places I could position my fingers. My natural grip is a little bit further back, and I found that when I shifted into this place, I was only able to reach the back side button and not the first without really overreaching. I found that when I did reach to hit that front button, I'd lose ring finger and pinky stability, and the mouse would end up curling off to the right and twisting, unfortunately. Now, whilst this is terribly unfortunate for me, it's not necessarily going to be the case for everyone, and it's kind of a bit of Schrodinger's side button being both the best and worst position depending on where your hand grips the mouse. I've only had this mouse for about a week, but I've tested it across a range of different games and aim trainer scenarios and found that it was flexible and versatile enough to be used in them all. It also worked across both hard and soft surfaces, with it being light enough that it reduced kinetic friction on control pads and really sped them up. The sensor has also been absolutely flawless with no deviation at 800 dpi where I play, no jitter, judder, dropouts or spinouts. But it is a G-Wolves mouse, so I opened it up looking for the rubber band and sticky tape that held it together. But I was surprised that every aspect of this build seems like it has a high level of attention to detail and professionalism in its approach. The solid shell, the clean and modern colours, the lack of visible branding or RGB. I don't want to gaslight this mouse, but honestly the biggest compliment, and I guess biggest insult that I can give this mouse, is that it is almost unfathomable to me that G-Wolves somehow managed to build a mouse this perfect. For months people have been dunking on them for pictures of unreleased Hearty-S metals with no sign of any progress, and then seemingly out the blue they send me a copy of the lightest wireless gaming mouse in the entire industry with build quality quite unlike anything I have ever seen before from G-Wolves. If, and it is a big if, G-Wolves do manage to get the HSK Plus to retail, it will be a real coming out moment for them and has the potential to put them right at the top of the game. I appreciate that taste is always subjective and some people are bound to find this mouse uncomfortable and unappealing, but for me as a fingertip player, I kind of can't believe I'm saying it, but the HSK Plus is the best wireless gaming mouse I have ever tried, and I am pleasantly surprised and truly baffled that it was G-Wolves that made it. So thanks for checking out this first look at the HSK Plus. I really hope it's not too long before other fingertip players get their hands on this little beast, because outside of reviews, I don't really see myself using any other mice for a long time. Stick around, I will be uploading tons more content on the HSK Plus once I've had a bit more time with it and seen if I'm still as down bad, I think that's what the kids call it, with the mouse. And I'll be comparing it to other premium mice like the German Ubermaus, the Zaunkönig M2K, amongst others. Until then, if there is anything I missed and you wanted answered, please leave it down in the comments. I will be active in there and trying to answer as many of them as I can. So to sign off, I've been Gary, this has been Get Reviews, and remember, if it's not good enough, I'll keep you informed. So get subscribed and I'll catch you in the next.